Our first inductee of the night is Charlie Warner. Warner attended UWF and was on the baseball team in its second season in 1982. After playing for the Argos, he went on to high school coaching, spanning over 30 years as one of the premier coaches for some of the premier programs in Northwest Florida. Coach Warner spent 9 years at Jay High School before taking over as the head varsity baseball coach at Pace High School. He has led Pace to 5 state Final Four appearances, 2 state championships, and in 2010, his Pace Patriots were selected by ESPN as the national champions. His high school coaching record, 631 wins and only 140 defeats. His 600th career victory came against Navarre in 2012. Warner coached and mentored 2 Major League Baseball first-round draft picks, Drew Cumberland in 2007, and then in 2012, Addison Russell. 10 of his former players have played professional baseball. Many have come to UWF to continue their education. Warner plans to retire from coaching after this upcoming 2014 season. Please welcome UWF head baseball coach Mike Jeffcoat to present for induction Charlie Warner. Mike.
Well, it's an honor to be here for Charlie tonight, and with the history of the program. I'm thankful to have played at UWF and be part of that tradition. I know Charlie was on one of the first teams there, but the big part of what we're here about with Charlie is not just what he did at UWF as a baseball player, but what he's accomplished as a coach in the Pensacola community. I know he started at Jay for a few years and got his feet wet 8 to 9 years there, but Charlie is one of those guys that as a young coach you look to emulate. I'll never forget in a little short thing to lead into Charlie, when I applied for the head job when Coach Spinner retired, I called Mike Martin at Florida State that I had gotten to know well from doing camps, and in his recommendation letter he talked about how important continuity was. And I'll never forget that word, simply because that was the word I didn't grasp onto, that Charlie Warner and others like him in the community had been at one place for a long period of time, and that place was identified by him. And one thing that you knew about Charlie Warner's team is they were going to play hard. I always remember looking at Charlie and seeing how he was a pillar of calmness, even in the most chaotic of situations. His demeanor never changed. He was always so respectful, a lot more than I am to umpires. Although maybe he was whispering in their ear, sweet nothings. But, he always showed class, and that was so inspiring to me as a young coach coming up. Another short story about Charlie, he had just started his coaching career, I believe, when I was coming up with Greg Blackman, who's a head coach at Tate, and many of us that played at the Babe Ruth League out by the airport, and Charlie was coming up coaching with Richard LeBounty and them, and they were helping coach me when I was coming up in my profession. So it is with great pleasure and honor for me to bring a man that I've always looked up to, and I hate to see him go out of the game because he's affected so many lives, but it's my honor tonight to introduce Charlie Warner.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight. I really thought I was going to go last, and now I'm up here first, and man, I tell you, I guess I won't have a tough act to follow, though, so it's good to go ahead and speak first. And, thank you very much for the opportunity to be selected. I want to thank, the committee for selecting me, and Coach Jeffcoat for putting me up, and Robin Desarn Cook, who was a Pace Patriot at one time. And those two guys, I think, pushed for me to get in, and again, thanks to the committee for doing that. I also have some other people I need to thank. I want to thank the Lord for giving me the courage, the longevity, the health, the patience to stay around the game I have a passion for in baseball as long as I have, because it is a game of constant failure, and it's tough on the coach sometimes as well as the player. And without his help, I wouldn't have made it this long. 31 years as a head coach is a long time to do anything, but it's been wonderful. Baseball's been very good to me, and also I'd like to thank the my mom and dad for supporting me all the years, playing, growing up, being there for me, being there at ball games that I coach now. Also, my wife Carol and my son Ty for the sacrifices that they've had to make through the years as a wife and son of a head coach that spent more time with other kids than they did their own sometimes. And I appreciate the commitment they've had to me and helping me with my success in that area. I'd also like to thank Joe Ambersley. Story about Joe, when I first come to University of West Florida, it was my senior year. It was just a junior-senior college at the time. There were a lot more trees than there were buildings, and now things have changed a lot. We had a beautiful baseball facility, but one of the first things I noticed was there wasn't any seats. So I didn't think we were going to have many people to come watch us play, and the student body was very small, but that didn't matter. We had a great group of guys that were playing here at UWF, and we had a coach, and Christmas time we all get back and we're ready to go, and Coach Joe walks in. At the time it was the athletic director, Mr. Ambersley, and he said, "Guys, I have some bad news." And so we're sitting there looking at him, and he said, "The bad news is Coach Goldfarb has decided to go back home." He lived down in Merritt Island, Florida, I believe it was, and he had returned home, and we no longer had a coach. And he said, "Now I've got some worse news." And we all were looking at him. He said, "I'm the coach." But that's not completely the truth. But I do appreciate the effort and time, and boy, I tell you, being put on a spot, it teaches you that sometimes you have to do things that you really don't want to do, and that's one of the things I learned from Coach Ambersley. He never let on and led us to believe that he didn't want to do it. He was fully committed, and he had a very, very tough job, put in a very tough spot, and did an outstanding job, and I want to thank you publicly for that. I would also like to mention that, I was in the Health, Leisure, and Sports Department, and great mentors there. Some of these guys have passed away. Dr. Ben Williamson was a good friend of mine, and he's no longer with us, but he was there. Dr. Clark, Dr. Ross, Dr. Watson, those guys molded not only me, but a lot of people in that department that are still my friends, and we still have conversations about those guys. And it was a family atmosphere. You felt like that you were not a number, that you were a person, and they really took time and cared about the students that they had, and that left impressions in our mind about how wonderful this campus was, and the people that were working here were devoted and really had a passion for what they were doing. And that left an imprint on a lot of people that came to this university, and I feel like it still does. It's gotten bigger, but it's still a smaller community atmosphere type college, and that's great. I have a son that's graduated from University of West Florida, and I'm proud to say that. And he had a good experience here. But I will share this with you. It's really changed, and the late Jim Spooner was a friend of mine also, and by the way, he's looking down smiling on the job that Mike Jeffcoat has done. I can tell you that right now. But I was talking to Coach Spooner one day, and I'd already started coaching. I didn't have the opportunity to play for him. He came in a year after I left, and we were talking about things, and I was asking him questions because I was a new coach now and fresh into it, and he'd been coaching for a while, and we started talking about money, and he said, I really have it tough over here, and this is how things have changed now, and this is a true story. He said, I go to the budget meeting that we have. They had a budget committee, and he goes and sits down with him. He has an itemized list of things that he needs for his program. And, they're looking over the list, and someone says, I see that you have 60 dozen baseballs on this list. And Jim said, yeah. And person thought for a minute. Long story short now, if Jim was telling it, it would take much longer to tell. But I'm going to tell it a little bit quicker, and the comment was, well, what did you do with the ones that you had last year? And so the idea was, we're not really interested in giving you a lot of money, but Dr. Bentz, I appreciate what you've done here and supporting the athletic program, and I've really seen things grow, and everybody has, the community, and what a great job you've done. But it would also be amiss if I didn't say that, a lot of the credit for things that I get credit for should be given to the assistant coaches that I have. As Dan mentioned, great players that I've had. It makes my job very easy. Nonetheless, I really appreciate the opportunity, and being a part of this is something special for me. Thank you.